And welcome back to the Four of Wands podcast. My name's Euryale. So, how are you? What have you been up to? I know last time that we were on the podcast, you were quite sick.
Yes. Let's ignore the previous episode with my ill face. But, not FOMO or anything, just dedication to the cause.
It was a little bit of FOMO.
Dedication to the cause.
Okay, if that's what we're calling it to appease your Capricorn stellium, that's what we're calling it.
Thank you. At least somebody understands. But yeah, I'm much better.
Adorable. You didn't look crappy. You look cute.
You're biased.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But how has your week been?
My week's been pretty good. It's been eventful. Very excited for this weekend. We've got the Dark Moon Fair, which is amazing. Very exciting. So this is the first time that the Dark Moon Fair has actually come to Sydney. Usually it's only in Melbourne, but they've expanded this year into Sydney and Tasmania, I believe. They've got one coming up later in the year in Hobart. So keep your eyes peeled. It's filled with witchy, occult things, curios, all of that wonderful jazz. So it's a collective of a lot of small businesses coming together in like a market type setting, but it's a bit more than that. It's like an expo as well type thing.
How exciting. You excited?
So excited. I got business cards to hand out. Come get your witch shit from me.
The more important question is, what are you going to wear?
Well, I thought that I'd wear a Hessian sack because I can make anything look good.
That was my outfit choice. Now what am I going to wear?
We can match. You could be sack 1 and I'll be sack 2. Together, we're testicles.
Yay, just hanging around. All that fun.
A little bit saggy, a little bit wrinkly.
Yep.
A little bit bald. Look like a damn licked lollipop.
Terrible. You're terrible, Euryale.
Today.
Amazing.
I love them. I'm obsessed with this colour.
Your Taurus is showing. Your Taurus is showing.
It is showing. But it's this midnight blue colour, but it's got pink sparkles in it, and I'm like, yes. Obsessed.
Well, I'm glad you've had a good week.
I have had a good week. It's been, the podcast dropped, which was very exciting. I know these are meant to be timeless, but it was a big deal, a big ordeal. Lots of nerves for us, very authentic to us. And we didn't want to dilute those nerves because this is a passion project for us. So it means that it is something important to us.
Agreed. So if you've stuck around and listened this far, thank you.
Right, thanks.
Thank you.
Let's see what I split on with the tarot cards in regards to the opening of this podcast. Okay, Spirit, what card do I need? I don't want that one. I didn't ask. That was for me personally. Okay, Spirit. What card do me and Wolf need in regards to the Four of Wands podcast release? The High Priestess. I love that.
Yeah,
Hi, Lady Hecate. Aw, with justice.
I
Cheering.
love that.
Balance. All about the balance. All about the unknown and hidden world. And I could ramble on about tarot forever, so I'll stop myself now.
I'll just follow up with I split my deck as well, and I got the 10 of Cups.
Aw, that's adorable. Yay for
Right?
us.
Thanks. Thanks, team.
Right.
Yep.
And thank you so much to everyone for all of your support. We appreciate every single one of you so fucking much. Honestly, when people say that they wouldn't have a platform without you all, it's true. We wouldn't be able to do this podcast or spread information that we're passionate about and things like that without having someone to talk it to. So thanks for opening your ear holes and letting us sneak on in.
I love it. I love it.
It just
So
reminds me of that Mary Antoinette sound. It's like, I'm just going to cozy in on here. Are you talking about Marie Antoinette?
that's got to be your sound of the week, I think, on TikTok.
No doubt. It's, yeah. What else? What other sound's been following me? There's been another one. Oh, Sabrina Carpenter.
Ah, yes. Yes.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Motherfucker.
So for the next 10 minutes, we're going to have Euryale laughing.
Right, laughing at myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Right, so quick snap questions for you this week. Song of the week.
oh, song of the week. Now you put me on the pressure, and I
No.
don't know. What's the music again? What is music? Okay, let me go to my Spotify so I can actually see. And then it just starts blasting like
Right.
hateful music.
It's just going to be an inception. You'll open it up. It'll be our podcast.
Oh, you know what I've gone back to? I've gone back to Rihanna. Now, that's like a little bit probably left field, but I've definitely gone back to Woo by Rihanna. And the Ariana Grande song with The Weeknd. 'Cause if you want to live, you've got to love. Okay, I'm sorry everyone, I just blessed your ear holes with a cat on a keyboard, so Tell Me Harder by Ariana Grande. That one's been the vibe.
Yeah.
It's the vibe.
That's the vibe. Mine's been a throwback to Ace of Base.
Oh,
So
yeah. You guessing that freaking 30 song thing where we fell through the bed slats.
yeah, well, I've been stuck on Ace of Base since, so but I feel like it's fitting because of the things that we're going to cover off this week, one of which is I saw the sign. I opened up my eyes. I saw the sign. I'm not singing it. I'm not going to be the chalk on a nail board.
I opened up my eyes. I saw the sign. Sorry. No?
Who are you again?
Frunk.
Frank. Tomato with hair.
Tomato with hair and frunk. But I'm not a tomato with hair anymore. I just
No.
got a bright... Well, no, it was my skin, wasn't it? Not my hair.
Got
Now
a
that
bit
the
of a...
red's gone,
Yep.
we've gone for a bit more of a mysterious look.
Is that what they're calling it these days?
Is that what the cool kids are calling it this day? Mystery.
Right?
Oh.
I used to be it, and it was me, but I am not it no more.
It'll happen to you. So, do you want to tell the good folks about what we saw in a crystal shop not too long ago?
Oh yeah, let's cover that off, shall we? Right. So first things first, we're going to cover off a couple of things today. Let's do a quick rundown, I think, of what today's episode's going to be.
Oh, it's just a hodgepodge of myths and shit.
Yeah,
That's what
but
we're going to
like,
call this episode, myths and shit.
look, overall, we're going to cover off our experiences, which we'll jump into in a second. We're going to talk about myths in witchcraft. We're going to talk about natural born witches, divine protections, and science. So they're the few things that we're going to cover off in today's episode. But yeah, back to the crystal shop. It was
If you
a
could hear an
blessed.
eye roll, it would be happening right now.
I'll set the scene for you. It was a chilly Wednesday at lunch,
It
and
was a Wednesday.
it was a Wednesday, and Yuri and I decided that we would venture out to a location that has a new age spiritual shop. Our ears were not prepared for the conversation that we were about to hear as we were standing there.
That absolute trifle coming out of that woman's mouth.
Oh, my goodness.
So we walked in and like, I'm a big believer of mind your business. So for the most part, we minded our business, but we're going to bring it on the podcast and talk shit. Snitches get stitches.
We're not naming anyone.
No, we're not. No, we're not. But this like shop has got so much wrong with it and so much right with it. Like the crystals in there are beautiful. The pricing's just exorbitant. Not my personal price range, but make bank, sis. But it was more so like what the woman was telling to what appeared to me to be a 13 or 14-year-old girl without a parent present. So I don't know if this is just, well, everyone's morals and ethics are different, but for me personally, anything to do with guidance, which is what this woman was giving, should be done with minors, with a parent or a caregiver or a trusted adult present with them. Because children haven't learnt discernment, and discernment is even hard for adults to put into practice. And so that really grated me as a business owner and as a witch and as a person. So did you want to tell them what she was? We haven't even said what they were saying, so we need to say what they were saying. Okay, well, for everyone listening and watching, pretty much this woman was talking to the young girl about her grandmother coming back to make a peace offering with her, or to leave her gifts of peace offerings, and using and sprouting that word peace offering consistently. And then, or like not word, but terminology of peace offering. But yeah, just, and then continuing to give guidance of how she should practice. There were hints of her leaving offerings out, or suggesting her to leave offerings out to her grandmother and things like that, which I wholeheartedly believe that as a spiritual person, you should definitely be leaving offerings. And the ancestors, your ancestors, are definitely wanting to work with you and help you because they're your ancestors. When you succeed, they succeed. But I'm also a firm believer of having protections and things like that. And this woman has no way of knowing whether this young girl has got protections. The questions that the young girl was asking imply that she has no idea about any of it. And I think actually, now that I reflect back on it, I think pretty sure that she said that she doesn't know anything about this kind of stuff. And to be suggesting her to leave out offerings to spirits without guidance of how to actually properly go about that. It's all good and well to say leave offerings for your grandmother, but is she at that age going to know to specifically say that out loud and be like, this offering here is for my grandmother and no one else to touch, blah, blah, blah. Is she going to know to say that? Like, this is people within the new age just don't grasp how dangerous spirits can be. And that's not to spook anyone. But it's not just dangerous within the, how do I word this? It's not just dangerous within like the spiritual realm. It's also a need to protect your own space and your own mental health. This woman had no indicator of where this young girl's mental health was at. And so I believe you shouldn't be giving advice. It's like a duty of care thing, and she didn't hold it up.
I agree.
Sorry about the brief pause.
Technical issues.
So, you were talking about Archangel Michael.
Oh, yes, right. So the commentary. So the comment that this particular individual made to this young, impressionable person was, and now I know that my father embodies the energy of Archangel Michael. The secondhand embarrassment was very real.
Right. It was just everything that I find abhorrent. Well, not everything, but a large portion of what I find abhorrent about New Age shoved into one scenario.
Yeah. Like, not even understanding, I guess, I don't know. It leaves me with more questions. Essentially, like this person at the shop, do they know? Do they know who that individual is? Do they know what they represent? Do they know anything of that accord? And should we be pushing that down onto someone else without that knowledge within ourselves? The secondhand embarrassment was real.
Right. I don't know, for me it's just like unfortunate that new age information is so available, especially in Australia, because a lot of the shops that you see around are new age based within shopping centres and things like that. So it becomes like a norm for a lot of young potential spiritualists and older spiritualists, but it's not safe practice. It's not spiritually respectful, and it's flat out dangerous. Like,
Yeah.
so much of the new age pipeline can lead people into a spiral mentally, and have them turning away from spirituality in general, or back to the church, or becoming just delulu. Like, it's not safe. There's no foundation within the practice. It's just flat out dangerous. And a lot of these people that own shops and hold positions of power for people seeking guidance in those shops actually don't have deep understanding of what it is they're even talking about. Like, to call it a peace offering from your grandmother is completely wrong terminology, unless your grandmother was a shit person.
Yeah.
But then in that case, if you have bad blood with your grandmother who passed, you have every right to ignore her spirit. You don't have to accept any peace offering or anything. Wolf just sneezed and I just see her head bang. But yeah, if grandma was a shitty person in life, she's probably still going to be a shitty spirit. Like,
Like,
she's not elevated. She hasn't had a chance to actually like develop as a spirit or return to source type thing and be recycled. Like,
It's just dangerous. It's dangerous. And this is where the misappropriations come from, where so many, well, we know it. We've seen it in our day to day as well. And this is why you and I are so hell bent essentially on not being that, is people take things as gospel, or people hear what they want to hear and they run with it.
100%. And like, I'm someone that has to learn firsthand why something is wrong. So I have walked down a pipeline a little further than I should have, but having strong foundations in witchcraft enables you to traverse those pipelines and then realize that this is actually just a whole lot of mumbo jumbo written from someone pulling it out their ass and stealing things. So I'm just going to go back to the grounded witches over here, thanks.
And it comes down to that discernment aspect, like practicing discernment. Like you hear it all the time. You hear it from me because I will run down a little pipeline and then be like, "Ooh, this is interesting. I'm going to go and have a read about it." And then I get there and I'm like, better not.
Like, for instance, this is a prime example of New Age spiritualism. So there's a double slit experiment, sorry, in quantum physics, where it's like shows that electrons will travel in waves and act as like a solid thing once observed. So it'll act like a wave as it's traveling, but then when it reaches a certain point and it's observed, it'll act like a particle. So what the New Age spiritualists have done is taken that science experiment and been like, oh, because people are observing it, and it's changing from a wave to a particle, this means that this is evidence of a conscious universe. And it's like, no, I believe in a conscious universe, but that science experiment does not prove that. To observe it, they actually have to shine light onto the particle, and it's the wave interference of the light wave interfering with the travel of the particle that changes it from a wave to a particle. It's not like, I think quantum physics is magic, but that experiment doesn't prove a conscious universe. They've just cherry-picked what suits them and been like, this is a conscious universe. It's like, no, listen to the whole science experiment, you fools. But anyway, I'm not a quantum mechanic, so that was a very layman's term from a layman about that experiment, but go research it. Like, it's really cool. But yeah, that doesn't prove a conscious universe, that experiment. But that's what the New Age spiritualists do, and it's fucking annoying. Listen to the whole truth.
That's it. Like, there's more to it. And unfortunately, we are in that day and age where discernment and people cherry pick, and we've seen that. We've seen that from, when we talk about the religion aspects behind spirituality and how you've got that split. So, as an example of that, I guess we look at, and very quickly, I'm not going to go in depth on this one because we'll cover this off later, but like you look at, Christianity or Catholicism or something like that, where they have a book. They very much will go through that book and cherry pick certain aspects of it. And if you haven't already, go and have a look at Yuri's page. Yuri's copped a whole heap of them lately, and each and every time she just shuts them down with the Oxford Dictionary definition of certain words that they have cherry picked and stated are the way of life. There is no deviation from said book, but you're not quoting it effectively. You haven't taken in the meaning of any of the context behind said book and the validities of the book and how it was written and how it's been interpreted are a whole nother thing. That is it in a nutshell.
And that's like huge when it comes to using and implementing discernment with books. So no book is truly unbiased. There is a certain time frame that it's written in. There's a certain person or people that have written it that have had their own experiences within life, within certain things. No book is truly unbiased. No information is truly unbiased because it's got to come from somewhere. So when it comes to, and history is written by the victor. So when it comes to even reading witchcraft books and occult books and things like that, you should be also looking at where those authors have grown up and how they've lived and their experiences or where they've grown up. All of that type of stuff factors in. So even with my Patreon I couldn't say is unbiased because I am very much for the forefront of social justice, and all of my life experiences have led me there. So would I say my content is unbiased towards New Age spirituality and Christianity? Absolutely not. And you'd be a fool if you could look at my content and think that it's unbiased towards that. I've had my own experiences with that. I'll respect you, but if you start throwing horse shit at me, I will horse shit back with you.
Yeah. Again, it comes down to that whole your content is written firsthand from your experience. It has not been translated. It has not lost any of its meaning in time. It is written by you, right? And that is based on your experiences. And I guess as people kind of go through our podcast and things like that, they'll start to learn those experiences as well, and they'll understand where you're coming from. And as we covered off even in the first episode, we're not always going to agree. There's going to be, differences in opinion, views, what have you, and that's okay, because regardless of where you are at and what you're doing, you and I will sit down and have a respectful conversation. Obviously, there are certain things that we will not tolerate, such as, why has the word escaped me now? It's because I'm fueled with passion. Geez, where'd it go? Hello, words. Wherefore art thou?
Words, my old friend.
It's the word that starts with M and we use it all the time.
Mundane.
No, not mundane.
Muggle. Magic.
No. The cultural appropriation. That's like just
Cultural misappropriation.
that one. Thank you. That's the one. Like, there are certain things that obviously we won't tolerate, but we will have a respectful conversation. If you can sit there and have that conversation with evidence, with research, with consideration of a differing viewpoint, I'll definitely sit down and have a conversation with somebody. You?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'm very much of like, I love knowledge, and to me, knowledge is power. So if someone can come, bring to the table a differing viewpoint with me, with evidence that holds validity, I'll take you on. I'll have a listen, and if you can change my stubborn viewpoint, amazing.
Teach me something. Teach me something new.
Exactly. And this is in particular directed at New Age spiritualism and Christianity. This isn't really to do with witchcraft or anything of that accord or sorcery or anything like that. This is, when it comes to witchcraft, it's very personalized and there's no one rule type thing. Whereas when it comes to Christianity and New Age, they abide by a certain set of codes and ethics type thing.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
Deliverance is not a one size fits all.
no, it's
That's it.
Mm-hmm. So one thing that I've noticed online is there's certain aspects of where New Age slides in to the witchcraft community and it kind of like blends. And this is one of those points where it's hard to use discernment if you haven't truly developed your own sense of self and your practice and things like that. So one of them is you have to buy, or you have to be gifted your own tarot deck. This is a myth that I've seen on TikTok so much over the years, and it's resurfacing. It's giving, this is something only a certain few people can do. It's giving, give me money to do a reading for you. It's giving, yeah, very much Christianity under the guise of tarot. It's disempowering, pretty much. Like, there is absolutely no freaking reason why you can't go and buy your own damn tarot deck. That's how I started.
I bought my first.
It's just like a form of control in a space that has no boundaries. The boundaries in witchcraft are ones that you set yourself personally, and you hold yourself to them, no one else. So to have a boundary like that implemented, usually targeted at people that are beginners, is ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
just
quick question on that front. The first deck that was gifted to you, did you connect with it?
Have I been gifted a tarot deck? Oh yeah. Oracle deck, not tarot. I've been gifted oracle decks. And I would say that no, the bond isn't as strong for me because I know what I like.
Mm-hmm. And the reason I asked is because I kind of just had that feeling as well. But same, the first deck that was purchased for me, I didn't connect with.
Yeah.
So it kind of also goes back to your thing too. It's personal.
Mm-hmm. It's your journey, your connection. There's no reason why someone needs to gift that to you.
Yeah.
Choose it for yourself.
Be
Choose it
like
for
somebody
yourself.
buying you a pair of red bottom heels when you don't want to wear them. Like, or it's not your style. You are a different story. Your Taurus moon just went, I'll take them Louis Vuittons.
Literally. For everyone watching, they just see my eyes go.
Pretty much. Like, but if someone were to gift them to me, they'd be a waste.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't enjoy them. I wouldn't wear them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not personal to my journey.
Yeah, exactly.
But don't buy me shoes.
I'm not going to buy you shoes.
Sorry?
I'm not going to buy you shoes.
Good. You know the superstition thing?
I do know it.
Yep.
This podcast has already gone a lot longer than I was expecting with that ramble. So maybe we'll make it a two-parter.
Okay.
So I think we'll talk about divine protection, and then the next episode we'll talk about natural born witches and everything is a sign.
Okay. Well, we can do that. Maybe we'll do a sneaky drop for the second part. Yep.
We can do that. But yes, another thing, aside from your shoe superstition, that has been creeping into the frickin' witchcraft community is this sense of divine protection being a thing. Now, this relates back to the conversation with that person in the crystal shop that was talking to the young girl. The implication of being able to just leave offerings to a spirit, assuming that it is your grandmother, I feel plays into that new agey concept of divine protection. You are not inherently protected. You do have to put in work with your protection, your
So,
spiritual protection.
so you're telling me that I can't sit here and envision myself surrounded by a white light and that be it?
I mean, you can. That's one form of protection. That's energetic protection. But protection works best when it's done in layers. It's like onions.
The occult ogres are going to love that one.
Right?
If you know, you know.
Protection is like augers.
Right?
You got to do it in layers. But
Yeah.
yeah, white lighting's great, but also it drains your own personal energy source. So it's not something that you can do continuous.
Yes, but like I'm just saying, like that's it. Like that's all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sit here and envision myself in that white light, and I'm done. I'm divinely
Yeah.
protected now. I have done no other work, put no other layers in. I don't feed source. That's the end of that chapter.
Oh, if only it was that simple. But then at the same time, protection magic is where you learn a lot of your foundational knowledge because you can never make yourself any less protected. That's why it's suggested that you start with protection magic. So if it fucks up, you're just back at square one. But that's why you should do protection magic first. But yeah, you should put work into your protections. And the more that you're dabbling within the occult realms, the more you need to up your protections. So in saying that, that young girl, she wouldn't have to have like, if she's just leaving offering to, we'll just continue down the path of we assume that it's her grandmother rather than, and she's doing that part properly.
How do we know they're not a shapeshifter?
Don't start the pipeline.
No, I'm going to. But how do we not know that the spiritual energy around them is not some sort of a shapeshifter?
Exactly. You don't know. But for the point of this, we're sticking to she's doing it right, the offering. You still need protections though. Like, as soon as you open up yourself spiritually in some way, you're like a beacon for everything within your area. That's a bit nefarious. They like sniff out beginners like it's, I don't know, crack. Ain't no more crack.
Isn't that the reason why so many people who step into spirituality initially and very quickly will go through a dark night of the soul?
Yes, one of the reasons. I think that also comes down to like it being such a big, overwhelming change in like
Yeah.
way of thinking, learning to find your place in the world and all of that. But yeah, if you're unprotected through that as well, like it's a big thing to go through. But yeah, the idea of divine protection, like you are not inherently just gifted this protection. You have to ask for it, you have to work for it, you have to use your own energy and do rituals and things like that to earn and gain your protection. You have to feed your spirits if you choose to work with spirits. You have to feed your deities if you choose to work with deities. You are not gifted divine protection. And so many people say that as well, but then they'll go and cleanse their house with incense and sound cleanse it. And it's like, well, if you're divinely protected, what are you cleansing your house from? What are you doing egg cleansers for? Make it make sense. Your math ain't mathin'.
I don't know what's wrong with it. Ain't got no gas in it.
Literally though, like it's so bad. But it's rampant in that weird blend of new age concepts heading into witchcraft. Like where the two meet, that's where it happens the most, I find. And it's so dangerous. And people, like, for instance, there'll be in a TikTok live and someone in the comments will say that they're divinely protected. And the people that are in that live, like the host, in these weird niche blended areas, won't bring awareness to it.
Yeah.
Won't call it out, won't say it as, no, that's a dangerous way of thinking and you can get yourself fucked up. And now I do say this with complete and utter knowledge that how I'm talking about this could make it seem terrifying, to dabble in witchcraft and things like that. This isn't I'm not meaning it to come across that way. It's just also about a form of having spiritual respect, to have a certain type of understanding that there are some spirits out there that don't have our best interests at heart, from our perception. From their perception, they're just doing their thing. They're doing what they're meant to do. They're doing them. But from our perception, they don't have our best interest at heart. And it's healthy to have respect of that. Like you wouldn't go up to a lion in the wild and be like, here puss, while covered in like a giant T-bone steak.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
you
And
wouldn't
that's
do
literally
that.
what I was going to say. I was going to say, let's take away from spirituality for a moment. Let's bring this back to the mundane for one moment, right? There is the element of risk, and there is the element of calculated risk. You learn this, and that's where your discernment comes into play, right? It's no different. No different in the spiritual and occult realms. Still have to have that level of discernment. There is still risk involved. There is, it's dangerous going into something not knowing. Like you wouldn't go and operate a forklift not knowing what the controls are.
Mm-hmm.
Why why would you do the same in any other aspect of your life?
Mm-hmm.
It's just I'm sorry, but it is. It's sheer and utter stupidity.
It is. And like, don't get me wrong, I think that there is definitely a certain aspect of the mind that plays into protection. So like you can hex yourself, for instance, if you think negatively about a certain situation, or you allow paranoia to creep in if you are friends with occult people, that they're constantly throwing magic at you. So you can hex yourself that way. And that's why it's so important to take care of your mind. But if you don't have protections in place, if you don't have physical protections and energetic protections and layers of different types of protections, there's no way that you can like counteract those feelings of paranoia as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And it comes down to that fact checking sometimes, because not everything can be answered in spirituality and in witchcraft. Sometimes it comes down to the mundane, and
Mundane before magic.
that's it. With all due respect, it is, and that's again just a respect of I guess where we are on our journeys as well, is having that respect to understand what's mundane, what's magic. Like
Mm-hmm.
you could potentially debunk an entire situation in the mundane before it requires a magical intervention.
Yeah. And like
So,
that's one of my biggest, like you can even apply that shit to like meditation. And like that's
yeah.
one of my biggest tips when having a spiritual experience is that when you're in that moment, take it at face value. Just
Mm-hmm.
accept it as how you're like as how you're seeing it and observing it and experiencing it. Take it at face value. But when you're outside of that situation later and you've calmed down, reflect on it. Reflect on that shit.
Mm-hmm. Like, a really, really quick example, right? A lot of people see things move or what have you within their houses, and they're like, my house is haunted. Like, I have a spirit. It's a bad spirit. Sometimes it is the mundane. Like, what?
Lisa, there may be boogie men or boogie women inside the house.
Tomato with hairs back. But like, I had an instance which I guess is going to feed into the next topic a little bit about not all signs. Um, not all signs being signs. And I'll touch on this briefly now, but I had an instance where I had this stupid air freshener that decided it was going to yeet itself, right? And I was like, it just happened to be at a very pivotal point when certain things were happening, and I was like, oh my gosh.
My air freshener is cursed.
The cursed air freshener.
It keeps making fart stenches. Oh wait, I just ate egg.
But like, I had that instance, right? I ended up working out what it was. It was a mundane issue, right? It just, the timing of it was very relevant. And I had to debunk that whole thing and use my discernment. I'm like, okay, was it actually in relation to that, or like what have you? Then I finally worked it out and I was like, yeah, sweet, we're all good now. It was just mundane. I don't have to worry. But did I go and layer up all my protections again? Of course I did.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of those things where you could arguably say that yes, it was mundane, but the timing of it could have been influenced by spirit to up your protections. So
Yep.
not everything's a sign, but sometimes it's a helpful thing to take it as a sign. In that case, it's a case by case scenario. And yeah, the not everything is a sign is really big.
But we'll touch on that in part 2.
Yes, part 2.
Yeah. When's part 2?